I hate phones. Phones are the actual worst thing ever, and I'll tell you why right now. Phones, they're slow, they're dumb, they're unreliable, they don't connect to the internet fast enough, and more importantly, you have to pay monthly to use them. I do not like that. I've never really liked it. No. Okay, well, I guess that is a little bit harsh. Uh okay, well, I haven't always hated phones, but uh, over the past few years, I've really began to hate phones. So, a little bit of background is that as a kid, I was intrigued with things like phones. I used to really like those. I was I really wanted a phone of my own one day when I was like, I don't know, 8 or something like that. But then as the years went on, I realized how inefficient they were, especially the ones I would get, because the phones that I had were house phones or like shared phones with my siblings. And these phones were, free of like a plan or whatever. These phones were the most outdated phones you have ever seen. These phones would take minutes to boot up. And well, that does sound a bit complaining. Like, I don't know. I just really do not care for slow phones. And my most recent phone that I've had is, I believe, like an older version of a Google Gemini. And this phone sucks. I timed it, and it took 10 minutes to boot up, as well as to boot up the message app. And it sucked so badly. Like, imagine if, for example, my life was in danger. I would be running for my life. Well, uh, I would need to wait like 10 minutes to be able to even call anybody because that phone's taking forever to connect to the cell service. So, not really the greatest look for phones, in my personal opinion. I didn't care for them really after that. But when I tell you that my most recent experience with phones has been horrible, I'm telling you, it has been horrible. So, this is where the story truly begins. Cue back to cue back to about 2 to 3 weeks ago. It was a Thursday. I was at my college. I was out doing my regular stuff, just walking, just, uh, you know, regular college things. But then I got invited to join this club, and they were having a hangout. So I decided to myself, I'm like, oh, hey, I'm gonna go over there with none of my communicating devices. I'm sure that will end well. So, Q to an hour later, I'm at this club, I'm hanging out with some people playing chess, and then I look at the time and I'm like, oh, it's like 4. I should probably get going to like my next club meeting that I have. So as I walk over there, and once I head inside the building, I see my brother and friends, or some being like, Muck, where have you been? You've been gone forever. Well, why weren't you answering any of your things? Where were you? You left all your stuff at the table or something. And then I was just like, guys, I was at like the building right next to the library. I wasn't kidnapped, I swear. And then they were just like, "Oh, well, you need to communicate more and not leave your stuff." So after that happened, my parents were just like, "Okay, Muck, it's time you buy a phone." And I was like, "No!" Well, okay, okay, it wasn't that dramatic, but you kind of get the idea that I really did not want to spend my own money on a phone, especially since I've had the worst experience with them up to this date. But after a bit of thinking, I was like, okay, you know what? Fine. I'll buy myself a phone. So after like a long while, I did a research for like 4 or 5 days on a phone that I may like, and I eventually decided to go with the A17 Samsung phone because it's a pretty good budget phone. I like the camera. I could put in my MP3 player SD card into it. Pretty dope. I like it. But the process of trying to buy this phone itself sucked. So, I tell you this one now. I made a crucial mistake when checking out this phone. So, what happened was that a few days before, I was debating between about which type of Samsung phone I should get because my family had been going back and forth between which type of phone I should get, a Samsung or an iPhone, because they're both evenly split on the matter. And I thought to myself, well, I ought to get some opinion from like some of my other friends who like use all these different phones. And after a long while of going back and forth, I was like, okay, I think I'll go Samsung because it's actually comparable for like the majority of the stuff I own. Because I do not own I do not own anything related to iPhone or like Apple in general. So it would have just like not really been the most useful to me, which is the reason why I decided to go with Samsung. I, I may change my mind later on, but that's my thought process on that right now. So here's what happened. Because my family was debating so heavily, I had put a few different phones inside my coat. And what happened was that I forgot that I still had one more phone inside the checkout coat before I checked out the phone I was trying to get. So, what ended up happening was this. I go to checkout, I click the thing, and I'm like, okay, yes, I finally get the phone. It will arrive here by the 25th. Yippee! But then my heart sinks because for a split second before I press that button, I see on the side of it, it says $480. And my heart immediately sinks. And then I'm like, wait, what? No! And then it was too late. I pressed it, and my money was gone. So I was so immediately bummed out because I had accidentally dropped almost $500 on two phones by accident. And it was completely my fault. I could have stopped it if I had just taken another second and actually double checked. Looking back at that now, I'm just like, oh, yeah. But hindsight, it's taken me a week since I put in my refund order. And that refund has taken since like this Thursday all the way to like Tuesday of today. So now I have finally gotten back my refund. I finally have back my uh $500 ish. So I'm happy about that. I finally replaced the order on the phone, and now my phone shall finally get to you sometime soon. I hope. It says April 2nd, and I really hope that's the case. But till that happens, I still do not like phones. And I have more reasons, but I, I think I'll answer that for another time. Anyways, I just want to rant about that. Thank you all for listening in, and I will see you all next time with the next time I want to rant about something. Alright? Bye!